Welcome back, Flare community. I hope you're all well and having an incredible Thursday as always. And yes, today we're going to be listening in to Hugo talk live about Fassets. We just jump over here. This is what it's going to be. It's going to be starting in just over 10 minutes. And this is what the space topic is about. Community AMA, ask me anything, Fassets on Songbird, and then Flare. Now, of course, this does start in 10 minutes, and you may be wondering why I started the stream early, but it's just to set the scene, because they did release this article yesterday, I believe, or maybe the day before, and this is quite a comprehensive article talking all about Fassets. I imagine Hugo will be going over a lot of this stuff in the spaces, but I thought it'd be a good recap just to, I guess, get a bit of context for what he's going to be talking about, and then we can go from there. So before we jump into the article, I do just want to remind you that there is a link in the description for anyone that is in the market for a decent wallet or hardware storage device. With the Flare community link, you get $70 off. So if that is an offer that you want to take advantage of, like I said, there is a link in the description. And it's something that I use personally, and I think it's a great wallet. And definitely good to keep your cryptocurrencies safe and offline. So let's jump into this article and see what Fassets are all about. Just on a high level, Fassets is a bridging protocol, a trustless bridging protocol. In fact, the very first trustless bridging protocol. You're going to learn about what trustless means in a short moment. Let's see if I can blow this up so you can... it's easier to read for you guys. That'll do. Right. Okay, let's jump into it. So, introduction. Is your bridge still cheap if you lose all your money? Fassets are an over-collateralized bridging mechanism aimed at allowing cryptocurrencies that do not natively support smart contracts to be used with smart contracts. Initially, Fassets will target XRP, Dogecoin, and Bitcoin, later expanding to other non-smart contract currencies if demand arises. Over-collateralization means that for every Satoshi drop or small buoy of a currency that is bridged, a greater amount of value is securing that bridge supply. Over-collateralization is a solution to the problems presented by mechanisms which require trust. Custodial solutions such as WBTC or wrapped Bitcoin, which rely on trusted entities, so you're relying on a third party, or in quotation marks, trustless solutions that rely on multi-sig or threshold signatures still involve a level of trust. This puts your assets at risk, such as over-leveraging, which is when the bridge amount exceeds the threshold for a liveliness or safety attack. So if you didn't know, multi-sig is basically the requirement for multiple people to sign on a transaction. And this is touted as a more secure way of bridging, but nothing in comparison to Fassets. Over-collateralization with liquidation offers a solution to the trust problems of the most common signature schemes and the over-leveraging problems of staked signature schemes. So let's talk about the Songbird test. The test on Songbird, which is Flare's canary network, aims to enhance Flare Labs' learnings about behavior in the Fassets model to enable full launch on Flare. If you didn't know, Flare Labs is a separate entity from the Flare Foundation. They're building the Fasset protocol, and of course, it's coming to Songbird first, and it's currently live on Coston. As such, the test on Songbird will have the following characteristics. XRP will be tested first, followed by either Bitcoin or Dogecoin. Agents will be permissioned, which means agents will need to be whitelisted by Flare Labs to perform their role. This is somewhat centralized in the process, but that's not going to be the case when Fassets go live on Flare, if I'm not mistaken. Flare Labs will underwrite up to 300,000 $200,000 worth of Fassets insurance. This means that in the event of a system having any issues, Flare Labs will cover losses up to $300,000 in total. A cap of $2 million insurance will be imposed per asset. So I believe that this may be a cap on the amount of Fassets. I'm not quite sure about that. I'm sure Hugo might expand later today. Check the time. We're going to be starting Hugo's talk in about 5 minutes. The aim of the test is to ensure that the system operates as intended, to identify edge cases, refine usability and automation, and incentivize white hat security researchers to try and find code errors. So this is basically the next stage from testing on Coston. Coston is a test network, of course, and for that, there's no incentive for bad actors or hackers to really try and extract value because there is no value. On Songbird, however, there is value. It's a canary network. The assets on that canary network do have a value, and bad actors may be looking to find some loopholes in the Fasset system, which is, I guess, a double-edged sword. It's not that good in terms of if something bad were to happen and funds were lost, but it's also good that things can get ironed out if any errors do arise before it launches on Flare. So just also a gentle reminder, when Fassets does go live on Songbird, don't go all in with it. Please just participate with a small amount, get used to it, and yeah, try it out. Don't go putting all of your eggs in one basket. Just be a little bit cautious there. So the duration of the test and launch on Flare, which is, I guess, what most people are excited about here. Each Fasset in its own is its own set of contracts, parameters, and supply and demand market, which means that the Fassets cannot be thought of as a single system. Therefore, each Fasset needs to be tested on Songbird. Once the FDC, the Flare data connector, is launched on Flare, and when the Fasset system has been tested on Songbird for a minimum of 6 weeks, provided that issues are not found that need rectification, that Fassets will then be launched on Flare. At the point of the Flare launch, a 2-month wind down notice period will be given for the Songbird Fasset, which time any unredeemed Songbird Fassets will no longer be supported. So it looks like Songbird is going to be supporting Fassets, but from my reading of this, it looks like it's only for a limited time. And I sort of do understand that. I don't want them, I imagine they don't want to have split liquidity. They want Fassets on Flare, and they don't want to be splitting the people that want to utilize Fassets between two networks. Of course, Hugo's main intention here is to get the metrics up for the Flare network and bring in more developers and more awareness. Launch of an Fasset on Flare networks will start with similar restrictions to Songbird, and the issuance cap will be increased incrementally as the market for each asset matures. So they're not going to start off with a huge pool where you can mint an unlimited amount of XRP. It's going to slowly increase, and the limits are going to allow for more Fassets to be minted as time progresses. And that's going to be determined by you guys, the community that want to utilize these non-smart contract assets on a smart contract network like Songbird or Flare. Here's a little note about the pricing of Fassets. Due to the restricted nature of the Songbird test and the existence of incentives for testing, it is unlikely that supply and demand for Fassets will balance in a way that the Fasset trades in step with the underlying currency. Once an Fasset becomes unrestricted in its size, arbitrage should provide a tight correlation between the Fasset and the underlying asset. Note that tight correlation between the value of the Fasset and the value of the underlying is not being tested here. So what does that mean? It means that when you have an XRP on the XRP ledger, it's worth a certain amount. But when you have FXRP, it's traded on the Flare network in a decentralized manner, and the prices may deviate somewhat based on people buying in large amounts or selling in large amounts. But the idea that arbitrage will equalize these prices and bring that spread closer together is one of profit. So you can buy an asset, say XRP, for whatever it may be now, let's say $2. And if you can sell it for $2.20 on Fleur as an F asset, then the arbitrage will eventually equalize the prices. What time are we on here? Oh, we're just about to start, I think. Maybe I can get back to this in just a moment. Where are we? Yeah, it's probably not worth powering through this. It's quite a lot. Didn't realize how big this was. So maybe we'll catch this at the end. But for now, let's give this a bit of a refresh. Let's see where we're at. Here we go. Okay, let's listen into the spaces, and I'll mute my mic and see what Hugo has to say.
Hey, Hugo.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing really, really great. It's a great day in many ways, actually. So perfect. We have should we just warm up now? There's still 1 minute to go, actually.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Where are you?
I'm in the Copenhagen area to the north, and so I would actually enjoy very much to be in Dubai right now.
I bet.
I need
I bet.
It's a little too dark up here, a little too cold, and yeah, I think for the next cycle maybe I'm going to move to Dubai. So, so how are
Well,
you?
let's hope this cycle treats everyone well enough that they can.
Yeah, true. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Just got back to Dubai actually, having been in Slovenia with the team,
All right,
with some of the
great,
team.
great.
So yeah, no, it's good.
And
The weather here is sunny but cool, which is wonderful.
yeah, so it's so what is that? What is cool in Dubai? Is that like 35 degrees or what?
Like 22, 25 Celsius.
Okay, yeah, that's great. That's really comfortable, I would say. All right, so I guess there's no need to
Let's get
further.
going.
Yeah, exactly, and I think there's no need for further introduction between you and I. Um, but what a great day actually to have this call, also because I see 100,000 everywhere. I see Bitcoin just crossed
Yeah.
100,000, and I also saw your follower account crossed 100,000. So it's a really perfect day. I will definitely remember it. Oh,
Indeed.
and today we are going to talk about F assets, and I guess specifically more about F asset testing on Songbird. That's the main focus, right? And of course, we will also go a little bit beyond that, but that's the main focus. But I think a good way to start here would be to basically maybe just refresh everybody's memory about what is so significant about F assets, and also we probably have many newcomers to the community for who it would be good actually to get some insights, introduction to F assets. So Hugo, can you give us an elevator pitch about F assets to start with?
Yeah, very simply, unlocking liquidity for multiple ecosystems at once. So you have a lot of projects that are building, maybe a layer 2 or a side chain for a particular ecosystem. I think that the real value is in building essentially a project that allows multiple non-smart contract tokens to come to one chain, so you can build a DeFi hub with Bitcoin, XRP, Doge, and be able to bridge all the tokens from other smart contract chains, especially Ethereum and their layer 2 ecosystem. So you have one DeFi hub for pretty much the vast bulk of the value in the space, and that's That's a short story on Fassets.
That sounds really amazing, and I can only imagine what kind of liquidity could actually be moved over to such a hub. In that recent announcement we had a couple of days ago from you, you started that announcement with a question. You said, "Is your bridge cheap if you lose all your money?" And so that's something that really, I guess, it's catching your eye when you see that. Can you tell us what you are referencing here, and what sets Fassets apart from other bridges?
Absolutely. So, one of the things one of those narratives that you see and hear about bridging is, oh, no one wants to pay for bridging. No one wants to pay for bridging. And that's great. Fantastic. Don't pay for it. But you get what you pay for. And ultimately, if you're not paying for bridging, then it means that, there's got to be something like a multi-sig underneath it. What the Fassets is it's an over-collateralized bridge. This means that it's more expensive, and it will be more expensive than other bridges. But it also means that if for whatever reason some aspect of the bridge, fails, there's collateral there to pay you out the same amount of value that you lost. It's over collateralized, so it holds more than the amount of value that has been bridged at all times, or at least that's the objective of the protocol. And the idea being that it's a slightly more expensive bridge to use, but it's a hell of a lot more secure. So that kind of puts it in context. Like, if you're using a cheap bridge, that's absolutely fine, but you've got to sacrifice an awful lot of things for cheapness.
Yeah, that's true. And another thing I also like about this setup is that it's I like the insurance aspect of it, right? Because even though you have great solutions, then you cannot guarantee everything, right? So, but the fact that you have an insurance solution here is, I think that's something that really speaks to me. So yeah.
Well, let's take when we take the three conventional bridge types. You've got your wrapped BTC, which is operated by a centralized custodian, purely trusted. If that custodian, for whatever reason, loses their keys, goes bankrupt, whatever, and half the custodians in the space are not set up as proper trust companies, where the assets are completely ring fenced, so they call themselves custodians, but they're not. But even then, you're still trusting a centralized entity to take to handle your money. Then you've got things like multi-sigs, NPC schemes, threshold signature schemes. If they're not staked, then you're essentially, again, trusting that set of signers. So it might be like 20 signers, 30 signers, 10 signers. You've got to trust that those signers don't talk to each other and all agree to basically do one single transaction that basically steals all the funds from the bridge. So that's the hard bit. And then the third is like you to have your multi-sig MPC threshold signature scheme, but it is staked. Like this is like the Axelar model. They have like basically a multi-sig and they have stake on a chain somewhere. And the problem with that is that you can't ever guarantee that the stake is sufficient, as in there's enough at stake to stop people from stealing all the funds. It's really hard to do that unless you have a liquidation protocol. So what the Fassets is essentially, it basically takes that design of like a staked multi-sig, although Fassets isn't a multi-sig, but it takes the kind of concept of using stake for a multi-sig to guarantee the multi-sig, but makes the value that's underpinning the security concrete by over-collateralizing and liquidating when one of the entities goes below the required collateral level.
I like it. It's it looks like a really perfect solution to solve this issue about basically about counterparty risks. So
well, it has. I mean, just to be clear, it has a couple of drawbacks, right? The key drawback is that it requires collateral. On all collateral, there is opportunity cost, as in if I'm going to provide collateral to the F asset bridge, I'm losing a potential to make money elsewhere. And so the bridge has got to compensate for that loss of opportunity. And therefore, it is more expensive than a bridge with less collateral, as in lower security. But there's trade-offs in everything. I think that's a great trade-off to make. Just in case anyone's still there, I can't hear Dan Rocky.
Oh, sorry. I was actually speaking while it was muted, so sorry for that. No,
thought so.
So what I was actually just elaborating on is that it's very, I think it's apparent to everybody that it is a more expensive solution, and also because it's that high collateral level that we see for agents, especially here in the beginning, right? There has to be some really good way of making also some income, and essentially, right, then it's going to be paid off by the minting fee when you mint the F assets, right? So it comes back to the
there's three ways that income will be made in the F asset system. Couple of ways, actually. So the first is the minting fee, the second is the redemption fee, and then there's a very small trailing fee every time the token is used. Very, very small, but assuming that there's high velocity on the F asset, then it should be enough to compensate the agents. And of course, Flare Labs, holding a large amount of Flare, is going to be incentivizing the agents, because I doubt the system will be large enough to make them enough money in the short term. So we're going to be incentivizing the agents with some Flare to make sure that it is sufficient for them to be there, to bootstrap the system. Then, there's another couple of other angles to make money. So liquidating an agent that is basically not topped up enough collateral is a good way to make money. I think you make a 10% immediate premium, but that premium escalates if no one liquidates. So it escalates as essentially to the maximum possible. And then there's arbitrage available as well, because the underlying F asset, it might trade higher than the underlying. It might trade lower than the underlying at various different prices. The system is designed to incentivize people to come and arbitrage the system to bring the price back in line. So there's a number of ways to make money from the F asset system.
Really great. And I think it's really great to hear that you'll actually be compensating the agents, especially in the beginning when the collateral level is higher than it's going to be when the system matures and we see a volume building up in the system. Let's move on. Can you say a little bit about whether F assets is a Flare product or is it actually coming out of Flare Labs, and combine that with whether other builders in the future will be able to build with F assets? And maybe you can also combine that with some of the questions I hear often. When do we see Litecoin or XML as an F asset? Is that something you see? Will that be delivered by Flare Labs, or maybe somebody from the ecosystem? What do you think?
Okay, let's tackle those questions. So just a Flare Foundation, which is a Netherlands-based nonprofit, launched the network. And as the launch of the network, they were responsible for building the core network together with the FTSO and the FTC. And in fact, they contracted Flare Labs, which is a development company owned by, largely by me and, investors and the team, to build the core network. And the core network consists of essentially the network, the validation, the FTC, the FTSO. So all the core data protocols for the blockchain for data. The F assets is then a product that anyone could build using Flare's technology. So there's no fundamental chain aspect to building the F assets, meaning there's no need for any change to the tech of Flare itself for building the F assets. So that is built by Flare Labs. It's an independent development company. Obviously, it has a long relationship with the Flare Foundation and has a sizable chunk of the Flare proceeds, because Flare Labs raised money to build the technology for the foundation. So that is kind of the distinction. Flare Labs is open sourcing the F assets. So that means anyone could build any F asset on Songbird or on Flare. Now we are launching, Flare Labs is launching 3 F assets. It is launching Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and XRP, and it's launching XRP first. Flare Labs will then launch coins it sees that there could be market demand for, and that could be Litecoin and Stellar. But at the moment, we just want to focus on those 3 coins, building out the market, well, first testing, then building out the market, making sure there's liquidity, making sure the system's operating smoothly. And then we'll make a decision whether we want to add Litecoin or Stellar or any other non-smart contract token. Ultimately, it's, we are, that's kind of up to us, but anyone could take the F assets code and basically, if they wanted to launch Litecoin, they could do it. If they wanted to launch Stellar, they could do it. No problem at all.
Cool. So basically, we can say that that the whole foundation here is open sourced, right? So people can build on that.
Yeah.
So when we talk about F assets and how it ties into the Flare ecosystem, and maybe also how it pertains to cross-chain interoperability, so will F assets be able to bridge to other ecosystems? And do you see potential use cases? What kind of potential use cases do you see there?
So, I think the short answer is yes. I do think that will be feasible through something like Stargate or Layer Zero. But the longer answer is, I'm most interested in bringing the maximal number of assets to Flare in order to have the most attractive liquidity profile for a DeFi hub that sits in the middle of as many chains as possible. So I'm less interested in F assets being bridged off to other chains.
Yeah, makes sense. Definitely makes sense to kind of have liquidity gravitate in one place, and that would definitely also attract a lot of more attention and developers coming into this space.
I mean, just take the example of like the US equity markets or the US treasury markets. They're absolutely vast and they have incredibly concentrated liquidity. If I own a stock in a major blue chip, I can probably sell $100 million of it without really moving much of the price. The reason why I'm so bullish on like the ability of Flare to be a DeFi hub for a number of ecosystems as opposed to just one standalone ecosystem, which is what most of the other projects are doing, is that essentially aggregating liquidity is really where the value is. That's why the US capital markets are effectively better than every other capital market in the world. Wow.
Yeah, but you know what? I really like to hear that you're saying all this, right? Because that tells us that there's an ambition, right, to build up a TVL on Flare network massively. That's basically what I'm hear what you're saying, and I think there has been some doubt about that because you could actually more see that whole interoperability concept as from a user perspective. You don't really care where liquidity is. It's basically just flowing where you get the best profit, right? and maybe I think has been some doubt about how that actually hooked into the whole Flare vision. But I think it's
Sure. I mean, look. Interoperability is fine. Interoperability is great. For my purpose, I believe interoperability serves for Flare to be able to bring assets to Flare, and then you could. There's a lot of ideas around there being essentially an abstracted patchwork of blockchains. But I can tell you that if you take Solana's example, one monolithic blockchain does really well because of the ease of use relative to one blockchain and a whole bunch of side chains and L2s and this and that, right? So liquidity aggregates where it basically has the least friction for users, for people that want to participate. You don't want to have to, in order to use assets, you don't want to have to use 4 different types of wallet, and all that kind of stuff. Now, maybe in 15 years, we will be able to have some layer above all of the blockchains that aggregates all the liquidity. But actually, that's what Flare is building today.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. Okay, so I think we should move on. Time is flying here when you have fun. Maybe we should take a look into Fassets and how it's actually working. What is the process for minting and redeeming Fassets? What does the collateral mix consist of? Maybe you could start by introducing these or refreshing us with these aspects of how to use the system.
Yeah, sure. So, let's say you want to mint, we're launching FXRP first. Let's say you want to mint FXRP, and we're launching on Songbird. As soon as you come onto Songbird, you need to make what's known as a collateral reservation. You pay a small collateral reservation fee. That collateral reservation fee is recharged to you if there's no collateral available. You then get given, once you've made that collateral reservation successfully, you then get given an address on the XRP ledger to send your XRP to. As soon as that happens, a proof is put onto the network by a watcher that watches the XRP ledger and observes that you have made the necessary transaction on the XRP ledger. You then receive your FXRP into your address on Songbird, and the same it'll be broadly the same for the other assets and the same on Flare.
All right, and I think maybe we should also touch upon a few more aspects that could be interesting for the community to hear. So, for instance, so how are you actually becoming a liquidity provider, and what about if you want to become an agent? How is that possible?
Sure. So, look, the collateral in the system is provided by agents, right? So it's provided by a combination of the agents and the community. An agent comes on, they have a vault, they seed that vault with USDX. So this is the native stablecoin on both Songbird and Flare. It is issued by Hex Trust, which is a custodian. We work very closely together. And on Flare, but not yet on Songbird, you're able to put USDX in Clearpool in order to get something called CUSDX, which gives you a treasury yield. So US dollar treasuries, it gives you that yield. On Flare, we will use CSDX as the principal collateral for the Fasset agents. But then on Songbird, we don't have Clearpool, so we don't have CUSDX, so we're just using USDX to start with. Then an agent puts in USDX. They also put in a large amount of Songbird or a large amount of Flare alongside their USDX. And then the community comes in behind them in order to share the fees from bridging with the rest of what we call the insurance pool, which it consists of the native token. So either Songbird on Songbird network or Flare on Flare.
All right, great. Okay, so
and on sorry, let me just give a bit more specificity on Songbird, because it's a test. Agents will need to be whitelisted. Obviously, when the system is mature, agents will not need to be whitelisted. The reason why we're whitelisting agents, when we launch it as a test on Songbird is because if there's anything wrong with the system, we know who the agents are. So even if the collateral disappears because of a bug in the system, we know that the agents are probably not going to go and steal all the underlying assets.
Yeah. Yes. And so basically, in the beginning here, especially on Songbird, but maybe even also in the beginning on Flare Network, you want to whitelist agents, right? But eventually, the whole process is going to be permissionless, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the point of blockchain.
Yeah, true. I just wanted to hear you say that, but that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we actually we are fully packed today with questions. I think, one thing that could be interesting also to ask you about here before we dive deeper into that announcement that you released this week, but let's just also touch upon the potential risks involved in providing collateral for F assets. And how the community would actually be mitigating those risks.
Okay, so it's kind of like the way it works is, so you've got two risks. You've got a risk to the agents and you've got a risk to the users who provide the insurance pool collateral. So let's deal with the risk to users who provide the insurance pool collateral. This is a lower risk than the risk to the agents. The risk to the users that provide, let's say, Songbird to the insurance pool collateral is if the agent becomes uncollateralized, as in there's not enough collateral. If an agent defaults, i.e. their collateral level goes below the minimum necessary level, the insurance pool is used to top up any deficit of collateral. So the minimum collateral level, is 1 point. Let's say, and I'd have to go to the docs to remember the exact amount, but let's say the minimum collateral level that the agent must maintain is 1.5 in stables, and they must have a 50% share of the insurance pool. Mm-hmm. If that full amount, so the agent gets liquidated first. If their collateral goes below that minimum level of 1.5, the agent gets liquidated first. And then if that liquidation amount isn't enough to cover the amount of F assets that agent has issued, then the insurance pool gets liquidated. So the agent takes the first risk, the insurance pool takes the second risk. And so the risk for agents is obviously that there's a big rally in the underlying, let's say XRP or Bitcoin, against stablecoins, against Flare's native or Songbird native, and that they don't have enough collateral to top up. Mm-hmm. That is the principal risk. Now, how can they mitigate that? Well, they can keep a reasonable amount of F assets on hand to essentially self-liquidate, basically reduce their position, mm-hmm. so that they have less of an exposure against their collateral, or they can top up collateral, right? So those are the two ways they can do it. And I think the best way they can do it is to keep enough, to have a relatively high collateral ratio. So if the minimum collateral ratio is say 1.5, then they should set their minimum collateral ratio at 2. And that way the risk of liquidation is very, very much lower. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so just for clarification, so when you talk about insurance pool, you are referring to the pool where the community can actually also add their FLR, for instance, or Songbird to the pool, right?
Yeah.
And
so that's the primary risk is the agent. So the agent takes all of the primary risk. If the agent's collateral is not sufficient, then the insurance pool takes the rest of the risk.
Yeah. And how would you say that the community providing collateral to the agents in this insurance pool, how would they mitigate the risk? Is it a matter of accepting that you actually have a risk here?
Well, there's definitely a risk. It's called insurance for a reason. Mm-hmm. if you're you're getting fees, but you're providing collateral, and you're able to earn your delegation yield whilst you're doing that. So your collateral is actually growing. But the best way to mitigate it is to stake your collateral with an agent that has a healthy collateral ratio. If the minimum collateral ratio is 1.5, you want to stake it probably with an agent that has a collateral ratio of at least 1.8.
Yeah, great. And just a quick side question. So if you provide liquidity to this insurance pool, so you actually receive delegation rewards, but what about flare drops? Is that also included?
Yeah, yes, of course. I mean, all of our vault systems, give you everything other than staking, because we obviously staking's on a different part of the chain, which doesn't interact with the C chain.
Mm-hmm. Great, really great to hear. Okay, so I think we should move a little ahead, and maybe we should dig into that announcement about the upcoming Songbird test. And I think there was a bit of a concern about a few things in the community that the community wanted to address. But if you there's probably somebody out there who didn't really read it, so maybe you could tell us what it is actually about.
Yep, absolutely. So I think you put it very succinctly in your tweet, which is essentially, look, tomorrow we should have the Flare data connector fully up on Songbird. We are waiting for an audit, which should be in by the 16th of December. This audit is not on the main code, but it is on the on the F-asset bot. The F-asset bot is not part of the contract code. It is essentially the way that agents and liquidators are able to use the system. We've changed some things in that bot since the Songbird test, since the Coston test, and so we are just having that audited because we made changes, so we don't want to release unaudited code. And then once that audit passes, which hopefully will be mid-deck, we will immediately launch the system. So we are looking to get the system live before Christmas.
Wow.
That is the short version of that announcement.
And that is really, really exciting. No doubt about it. So what is the role of Songbird in testing F assets before launching them on Flare?
So for the community, it's kind of getting people used to the mint redemption flow, getting them used to interacting with DEXs, all of those kind of things. But for us as Flare Labs, it's to test the code in production. It's to give a real world, real money scenario where the code is in production, where we can monitor people's behavior. If you don't, it's for a protocol that is based around money, and you're not able to test it with money, you're really having a very limited test. So it's always been Songbird's role to be a test bed for Flare. This gives us the ability to test people's behavior. We already think we have a good handle on how people are going to behave, and it gives us a good test on the code in production with real live production networks. Don't forget, when we tested XRP on Coston, the XRP testnet went down, and this is because testnets are just not as robust as mainnets, and so we just want to make sure that everything works. It also, because there's live money, it gives an attack vector for people who want to attack the system, and it gives them a financial incentive to do so. We will also be running a bug bounty on Immunify, with very good bounties, but actually having real money there gives a good a place for people that we can't get to have a go at breaking the system.
All right. Okay. So if you should put some specific words on it, what is the key differences between the closed beta test and the Songbird version?
Money. The key difference is we've made a few upgrades to the bot. There's been a small upgrade to the contract that allows agents to do optional off-chain KYC, because we think that KYC, as the world gets more and more institutional focused, is necessary. But it's optional, so not all agents have to. Not every agent has to do it. It's only the agents that want to. So there's a couple of small technical differences, but principally the key difference is that money is involved.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Understood. Okay. So let's go into talk a little bit about what measures they are in place to ensure security and reliability of Fassets during the audit and the testing phase here. And I was specifically also thinking about two questions that came in from the community. There was one member that asked, they noticed this insurance cap. This is an insurance cap, and he was thinking, could it be feasible that you actually have a whale or very few person who goes in and basically occupies all the capacity of the asset system, and so you will not really be able to have a proper testing? Or is there a way where you can actually ensure that the minting is getting widely distributed to many users? Yeah, how do you see that?
Yeah, sure. So, first question, what measures are in place to ensure security and all that? Well, obviously we've had it audited multiple times. We've tested it on custom. We've then made some changes. We're having it audited again after those changes. So, we've taken every responsible measure we can do to make sure it's as safe as possible. And then, we are underwriting the risk of a certain amount of value. Now, to be clear, we're not underwriting agent liquidations. If agents don't top up their collateral or don't keep enough collateral in their vaults, then we're not going to cover that. But because that's how the system is designed. But if there's a code flaw, that means that that people lose money because of the code rather than the agents being problematic. And just to be clear, even if agents are problematic, the entire system is designed such that people shouldn't lose money under most circumstances. But ultimately, we're underwriting the risk up to 300,000. So we're targeting 100,000 per asset. So 300,000 in total. So we're underwriting that risk of code issue or system issue or Oracle issue. Or Oracles have been pretty amazing for 3 years, so I don't think that's an issue. And then, with regards to a whale taking up all the capacity, well, the world works on incentives, and if you read the blog, the announcement, there's no incentive for a person to do that. So we are incentivizing people to mint and deposit in DEXs up to 75% collateral ratio. So, basically, beyond a certain point, you're not getting any more flare, R flare for minting and depositing. And in fact, beyond 75% collateral ratio, we reward people for buying from DEXs and redeeming.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, yes, someone could feasibly do that. It would be illogical, and you wouldn't get paid.
No, I agree. I agree. It's exactly how I thought. I saw it also. Can you elaborate on the 2 million USD insurance cap per asset? What exactly does that mean?
No, it's not an insurance cap. It's an issuance cap, meaning more than 2 million of any particular asset cannot be minted. This is standard in protocols. Like if you look at, say, how DAI launched on Ethereum, they had sequential votes to increase the cap. We'll be doing the same when we launch on Flare. We'll be not necessarily having voting, but we'll be increasing the cap very slowly. This is because this is a market for collateral, where on one side you have demand for assets, and on the other side you have supply of collateral. You don't want the market the size of the market to outpace, the liquidity in the market. So we're having an issuance cap of 2 million.
So it's a maximum of $2 million in, for instance, Bitcoin that we're able to mint on Songbird.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good to get that clarified. And do you see?
Although just a reminder, we are launching XRP first.
Yeah, right. Of course. Yes. But to take XRP as the example, do you see that cap could be lifted during the Songbird testing, or will it only happen on Flare?
No, it won't. It won't. We are, as I said in the article, the purpose of Songbird testing is to test with the objective of moving the Fassets completely to Flare as quickly as possible.
Yes. Got that. Okay. So next thing I think could be interesting to talk about is the incentives for participating in the Songbird test. And let me just give two examples here, two questions that you can elaborate on. So we have the first one as also the, what is that there? It's this $260,000 incentives in R-Flare. That's basically going to be allocated to the Songbird test. So is that it, or is that going to be increased? Maybe that's one thing. And
no, that's it for. Okay, so there's like a couple of incentives. There's some incentives with the agents that are onboarded. Right, it's expensive to run the infrastructure. They're learning. They're putting their own capital in order to do it, and so we wanted to give them some incentives, and this gets them ready for the prime time on Flare. So there's some incentives for that. They're not massive, but they're not small either. Then there's 260,000 for essentially minting and redemption, minting and depositing in a DEX when the collateral ratio is below 75%, taking from a DEX and redeeming when the collateral ratio is above 75%. This is how we are hoping that we're able to keep the system and the price of the system in check, because obviously with a cap on the issuance amount, it's quite difficult for you to get arbitrage in order to keep the price of the F asset in line with the price of the underlying. Mm-hmm. Right. So long as there's enough collateral, 1 unit of the F asset is always redeemable for 1 unit of the underlying. Mm-hmm. That's not a problem. But because there's a cap, let's say there's more demand for F assets on Flare than there is the possibility to have, than the issuance cap allows for, then the price of the F assets on Flare may rise above the price of the underlying. This is why we are essentially incentivizing people to mint and redeem. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, got it. Can you say more about what DeFi services there will be available on Songbird initially? For instance, will there be one or will there be two DEXs? What kind of what DEXs are we talking about? Where the community can place liquidity, and can you maybe reveal a potential APY for placing F asset liquidity?
So there's obviously the DEXs that are on Songbird, so that's Spark DEX, Enosis, Blaze Swap. Mm-hmm. But it's up to those DEXs, but I'm fairly sure they'll all support it. And so that's a problem. That's not a problem. We are not, we're not focusing on anything other than DEXs. We're just interested in basically testing, trading, and minting and redeeming, because the token's in the RC20 anyway. So, we know how it works. You don't need to test lending. You don't need to test anything else. There's nothing different about that relative to any other token being put in a lending protocol. APYs, I don't know yet. It's really going to fluctuate a lot around the minting and redemption and where it is against the collateral ratio.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okie dokie. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to another thing that was an eye catcher, I would say, from the announcement. It said there will be a 2-month wind down period after which F assets on Songbird will no longer be supported. And yeah, there's I guess people are really trying to understand what exactly are the implications by that. Uh, for instance, won't any new D apps being tested on Songbird no longer? The new D apps being tested on Songbird no longer work if FSs are not supported on Songbird, especially if they require the use of F assets. That's one of the questions we have.
So there's no need for you to test a DApp with a specific asset, right? Like you wouldn't need to test a lending market with a specific asset. All the assets are ERC20s pretty much. There's no need for you to have to test it with any specific asset. The objective of testing is to test code and economics in a particular setting. So there's no need to keep F assets on Songbird any longer than is necessary for the test. And there's no, it's actually pretty undesirable to split F assets between Songbird and Flare. You want to have as much liquidity in one place as possible. That's just the way the world works.
Okay, so what I hear you saying here is that when the testing is done on Songbird, so basically you aim to move the liquidity, the F assets, but also maybe even stable coins to the mainnet. So is that the aim?
Yep, that is the aim, and we'll see how that goes. But of course, USDX is always available on Songbird because Hex issue it on Songbird, so anyone can put anyone that wants to go register with Hex can issue USDX onto Songbird, and then people can buy it in DEXs as you already can on as you will be able to on Songbird just before the launch of F assets. But just to remind everyone, the code is open source. You can launch your own version of F assets on Songbird whenever you want. We just want to focus, once we've done the test, we want to focus very heavily on Flare.
Okay. And I guess that also answers some of the other questions that we have. There's one member who wants to know who can test on Songbird, and I think you already answered that because basically the whole community.
So everyone can test on Songbird. Obviously, not everyone can be an agent because they don't have enough collateral. But everyone can buy F assets or mint F assets. Buy it through a DEX on Songbird or mint F assets. Through the minting app. That's exactly the purpose of the test. It's for everyone to have a go. As it's a test, health warning. Don't go crazy. Don't put all your money on Songbird. There could be problems. And we are only underwriting, up to $100,000 per asset.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So that's another question where one person is asking, will F assets fundamentally remain operational on Songbird after mainnet? And so that question is also answered here because.
So to be clear, the Flare Labs supported version will not, but anyone can take the code and launch it under a different company.
Yes.
And if you're going to do that, I would suggest launching a governance token with it, so that you can control, so that the community that end up interacting with F assets on Songbird, they have governance over the collateral parameters, and all those kind of things.
Yes, got it. All right. So I think we have actually covered all the questions related to the testing on Songbird that we have. So I think we can actually move over to some of the questions about the future and also the near future, because I guess we are, at least it feels like we are in a bull run. And even though I don't think that we have seen the full retail market entering yet, but things are going well, and everybody's looking forward to Fassets on Songbird. But what else? Could you mention three things worth celebrating in 2024 for Flare?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if we look back on 2024, it's been a very cool year. It may not look necessarily to an outside observer as like, ooh, that's exciting. But I mean, we completely rebuilt the FTSO, right? Basically from the ground up, such that, and we managed to basically ship it, all within 1 year, and move over to the FTSO v2 seamlessly. So, before, the FTSO was basically just built for Fassets. It updated every 3 minutes. It had only supported like 15 pairs. Now the FTSO v2 is pretty much, well, it's the only major version of an oracle that exists only on chain, i.e., it's enshrined into the chain, but it's also incredibly competitive because it can handle 1,000 assets updating every 1.8 seconds with the fast updates.
Mm-hmm.
I've been watching the fast updates. They're developing very, very nicely. One of the things that I think a lot of the community didn't even know about fast updates is that people can incentivize the fast updates in order to get better fast updates,
Mm-hmm.
which is really cool. So that was a huge project for us internally. It doesn't look to the outside like much has changed, but everything has changed.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we've launched the FTC on Songbird, the Flare Data Connector on Songbird. That'll be launched on Flare pretty soon. Hopefully first month of next year, to enable us to get the Fassets straight on board. But the FTC also is, highly superior to the old version of this, which was called the State Connector. So that's been a massive engineering challenge. And we're introducing Fassets. But I mean, one other thing to celebrate from 2024 is our TVL. Our TVL went up 100% last month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed that.
We've had a huge amount of builders come to Flare this year. We've had a huge amount of interest. The number of on-chain transactions, the number of wallets, the increasing diversity of applications, developers, users in the ecosystem. These are things that I think I certainly am very excited about that has happened this year, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon.
That's really awesome. That's fantastic. And I think that's also something the whole community has their eye on, is to see this liquidity building up, and now we can actually start to see that it's getting some impressive size.
I mean, we're now 1.5 million wallets.
Yeah, that's also really impressive, actually. So, and also I noticed, the way the transaction volume has been going up over the last half year is also pretty amazing. And I think I saw a few days ago, actually, that it is among the top 10 of blockchain transaction volume at the moment. So I think that's a very good indicator, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think Flare is getting more and more known across crypto. And you, at some point, you reach a tipping point where everyone knows you. I don't think we're there yet, and I'm glad we're not there yet, actually. But at some point you reach a tipping point where you're like a major brand, and that's an exciting thing to be on the cusp of. I mean, I saw another thing yesterday where I think we were one of 4 or 5 projects with a fully diluted valuation above $1 billion that isn't listed on Binance. So we're still weirdly early at Flare.
Right. Yeah. And that's that's a really interesting aspect, right? Why are we not on Binance yet? And no. I think if you drill into how Binance actually works, it's not so weird. Then I actually understand. But it's I think Flare has a size at this point where it definitely should be on Binance.
All I can say is I'm fairly sure. If everything keeps going in the direction it's going, I think the network itself will be undeniable.
Yes, agree. Okay. I think let's see here. Other things you want to say about what we can expect in December?
Absolutely. So we're integrating Flare with June, which I'm very excited about. It'll give the community the ability to sort of analyze metrics and track performance across the network. This is great for transparency, and it's really great also for other people, basically community growth, because a huge amount of people go to places like June to get information about ecosystems and figure out where they're going to deploy their DeFi funds. So that's a great one. I think the first real perpetual market is going to be launched by SparkDex, and Cyclo, which you may have seen a few things about, are launching a very innovative product that allows users to get leverage, which they say is liquidation free. I haven't been in depth into their docs, but the business development team tell me it's a pretty exciting protocol. Again, I don't want to talk about liquidation. That I don't want to talk about leverage that is liquidation free. As I haven't had time to look extensively at it, but if you're interested, go and have a look at their docs. And read their materials and see how you feel about that coin.
Yeah, it is definitely an interesting project there. I think I heard the word Cyclo at least 50 times this week, so now I think I also have to go and look at it.
Yeah, I haven't had time. I've been traveling extensively and I'm just on back-to-back meetings all week, so I haven't had time to look at it. But everyone tells me it's really exciting.
All right. Okay. And then we have 5 minutes left, but I think we can also we have a time also to talk about what we can expect for 2025.
Absolutely. Well, look, as I said at the outset of this call, there's a lot of projects building individual blockchains for individual ecosystems like XRP or Bitcoin or maybe even Dogecoin. There's definitely one for Dogecoin. The whole prospect of Flare is that we are a single, the best source of liquidity across those areas because we're putting them all together. We're aggregating liquidity. And so, as you've seen, our DeFi hub has done well. In the last 4 months, we've grown. The DeFi and Flare has grown by 4 times. We're now at about 80. If you count all TVL, including real world assets, which CoinGecko doesn't, we're at 85 million today. My goal for 2025 is that DeFi matures and we 10 to 50x the TVL. That's what I'm. That's what this game is about. This is why we are interested in things like Fassets and more DeFi protocols and all that kind of stuff.
Wow! So you actually said 50x in 25.
Look, I can't say that will happen.
No,
of course I can't.
No,
but that's obviously my goal.
Yeah. I understand, but I just want to hear that I just want to make sure I heard you right. So, but that's great. And
I mean, look, I want Flare to become a leading DeFi ecosystem. It would be insane for me not to.
of course, yeah, and of course, those ambitions should be there. So, but it's also nice to get it on word, right? That you hear that these ambitions are there. So I love it. Great. Any other things we can look forward to 25?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've always had a very strong US European footprint, but we actually have always had a lot of token holders in Asia, but we've never been good at talking to them. We've never had much of a presence in Asia. As you all know, or most of you know on this call, we distributed our token to the XRP community. Obviously, the XRP army because it's on Twitter is very US centric because of the English language. But XRP actually has extremely wide distribution in Japan and Korea, much less so in places like Taiwan and Singapore and Hong Kong, but very, very good distribution in Korea and Japan. And we've throughout 2024 and into 2025, we're focusing very heavily on Asian markets. We started out really, I think our biggest success probably was, our biggest initial success was Korea Blockchain Week, where we had an extremely big presence. I was there, and the excitement about Flare at Korea Blockchain Week was like really shocking. There were lines that were sort of 20 minutes long, 30 minutes long to get to our booth. That's not normal.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was weird, but awesome. So we've grown our Korean community massively since Korean Blockchain Week. And we've also been looking to, how do we interact with China? How do we interact? China is mainland China, and then there's a Taiwan that has essentially Chinese language, and then Hong Kong, is a special administrative region, and then Singapore has a huge Chinese population. So the question is, how do we access that market? And I think hopefully most of you will have seen we did a partnership with rebate to trial stable coins in anticipation of upcoming stablecoin legislation.
Yeah, that's also a very cool project. That's something I'm definitely keeping an eye on and see how you're doing out there. Yes, and we actually 1 hour already passed, Hugo. So it's really time is really flying there.
I've got a bit more time. It's fine.
Oh, that's great. That's great. All right. So any other thing you specifically want to point out for 25?
So, I'm really interested in, and I think, going beyond data, I think data can enable really interesting use cases, and we're only scratching the surface. So, I spent a lot of time thinking about, okay, we have the Flare data connector. What can I prove from Web 2 that would give us a really interesting product, and who can I get to build it? So one of the examples is betting markets, what they call prediction markets. I don't know why they call them prediction markets. They're betting markets. I think it's a great use case, but I think as institutions come in, there's going to be a lot more interesting types of data we could be able to access. And then, I'm very interested in trusted execution environments in order to give us essentially really fast computation and move a lot of stuff off chain. We're doing a hackathon co-hosted with Google Cloud in March in California. California, because a lot of the best teams, a lot of the best tech talent is there. And we're doing that, I think, at Berkeley, but I'd have to confirm. And with Google Cloud around TEEs, so looking at putting AI in a TEE, maybe making an AI assistant for Flare to make adoption easier. We'll see what comes out of the hackathon. I got some of my own ideas of TEEs, one of which is essentially allowing people to stake natively on a blockchain like Bitcoin or XRP or Dogecoin to a service that then leverages that stake to secure third-party services. And I think if that's kind of something I've put out a sizable personal grant for. So I'm about to put out, or soon to put out, a request for proposals. I think the foundation will follow up behind me with an additional grant and probably marketing support and all that kind of stuff. But I'm looking for really, really good teams that can leverage essentially TEE infrastructure that we will be building in order to do things with XRP that go beyond Fassets, in order to essentially allow for a full staking service natively on that chain with the liquid staking token for that staking service issued on Flare so that it can enjoy Flare's DeFi.
Sorry, I just had to cough. I don't know, I had a cold this week, so I'm just getting a little better now. But that's really, really exciting. That's really exciting, Hugo. And actually, I wish we had more time to talk about this, because this whole staking platform that you are preparing a request for proposal for, that's also definitely something that I see a huge potential in for Flare Network. So, but I guess today we have to move on, and maybe we can talk about that another day, another time. I just want to hear also a little bit about where you see AI is going in 25, because Flare had a lot of ambitions within that area, and I trust that you still have. So I'm a little curious about it. How do you see that?
Absolutely. So I think 25 is an interesting one, because I think it's immature, right? I think like everything I've seen AI blockchain today is pretty basic. Yes, you had a meme coin called Goat launched by an AI, and or apparently it was. I'm not so sure, but let's see. I think people are looking for use cases. We've got like a long list of AI use cases in an internal document. The one I'm probably most excited about is like a co-pilot for blockchains. That means that maybe I can give. Not sure this can be done. It's a research thing, but maybe I can just write what transaction I want to do. I want to bridge USDC from Ethereum. I want to trade it on Flare, and I want to get it on some third network, right? And maybe I could just say to an AI, structure me a transaction that allows this to happen, and has the best pricing available, right? We'll see. But if we could come up with like an MVP of that would be an amazingly great use case of I think LLMs. I think there'll be a lot of AI agent kind of stuff going on. I think that is a big market. I think it will get increasingly a big market. But then I also think, we released a kind of little teaser paper on something we call consensus learning earlier this year. That's a huge project, and in some ways could have the potential to really change the quality of AI that's available globally. That's not necessarily that's a huge project. That's not necessarily a 2025 thing.
Okay, yeah, got it. All right, okay, so another thing that I think we have also talked a lot about in the community that's been chatted about, that's of course Flare Oracle providing reliable data to other blockchains. And, I have been, I've really been hoping that we would see some partnership with other blockchains coming up with Flare. How do you see that area developing in 2025?
Absolutely. So it depends what you're talking about, oracles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the amazing thing about the FTC is that you can use the exact same FTC contract on another chain that exists on Flare, and we can relay between Flare and other chains. And so that makes it super simple for Flare to actually relay data in the FTC. Now, that's not price data, that's state data from Web3 and Web2 data.
Mm-hmm.
But that makes it really easy for us to relay data between chains.
Mm-hmm.
So suddenly we can start looking at, like, someone can come and build a bridge. Someone can get data on what's happened on Flare on Ethereum. Someone can get data on what has happened on Ethereum on Solana through Flare. This is like a really exciting use case of FTC, and this is why we restructured FTC so that it can be multi-chain from day one. Obviously, it's not multi-chain from day one, but it's essentially, there's no further technical work we have to do to make it multi-chain from day one. So that's kind of exciting. And then the second is, how do we get the prices onto other chains? Now, one of the interesting things is how you get the fast pricing, because the fast pricing is a really great thing to be able to get. And that's, again, where trusted execution environments come in. We already have an MVP of that, building that out, and talking to certain partners, potential partners. Can't say more.
Oh, okay.
Nothing's solid as yet.
Okay, but there are something going on there. That's really great to hear. Okay, and I got a question from my community whether there's actually some upcoming integrations with institutions who will be using Flare for real world application. And I guess that's it's also an ambitious question, but nevertheless it's quite interesting.
It's an overly ambitious question, right? Institutions don't really like it when people talk about things before they're announced.
No.
sorry not to give more color on that.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Fair enough. Okay, so let's round off here, Hugo. Last thing, any tips for the Flare community on how to navigate the market right now, and basically how to cut through all the noise?
I don't know about cutting through the noise. I have trouble with it myself.
Yeah.
But look, we could have reached a top when Bitcoin and XRP and all the other stuff, or this could just be the beginning. I don't know. I know which way I know which way I have my personal exposure, and I believe we're going higher.
Mm-hmm.
On Bitcoin and on the market in general. I have no idea if I'll be right. We could go a lot lower in the short term, or we could go a hell of a lot higher and no one's able to get in. And that is a very long way around of saying just don't play with more than you can afford to lose.
Agree, and I think that's probably also the best advice.
Like, don't make Christmas in 2025 shit for yourself.
No, agree. I think I would also give that advice. Never invest more money here than you can actually afford to lose. So
don't put your children's college fund 100% into Bitcoin.
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah, maybe you'll come back to me in 5 years and say, I should have put 100% of my children's college fund into Bitcoin. It's now at $1 million a token, but it might not be. And just be sensible. You asked me how to navigate this market. This is how I navigate this market.
Good answer.
Although, frankly, I probably have more exposure to crypto than anyone on this call. You know, if crypto does poorly, I have a very you know, my personal exposure is like 99% of my net worth.
Wow, that says something. All right, Hugo. I think we spent almost 5 quarters here, and but I think it was really great. A lot of alpha information, and I think this will be. I think the community will be very happy for this call, and they got their questions answered. So
I hope so. I hope so. I you know, wishing everyone a very nice December. If you celebrate Christmas, although I'd probably be online before, I'll probably be on a AMA before Christmas. But if I'm not, if you celebrate Christmas, enjoy it. If you don't, enjoy December anyway, and a Happy New Year and all that kind of stuff.
Great, and the same from me also. And thanks for being here. Thanks for taking part, and thanks for having me as a host on this space. So that's also really great. So thanks for that, Hugo.
Awesome.
All
Thanks.
right. Have a nice day.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Well, guys, there we have it. You know, I think it was quite a lot of just covering a lot of this, what we already covered prior to the stream starting. I'm not going to read the remainder of it because I think it was covered by Hugo himself. But we did get news that I think this was already mentioned here, that they're expecting an audit back from the Fassets bot on the 16th of this month, December. So that's going to be the earliest that Fassets is going to be live on Songbird. Hugo said that he's planning to try and get Fassets on Songbird before Christmas. So, you know, I guess that's the time frame, sometime between the 16th and the 25th. From there, they said that they're going to be testing Fassets on Songbird for about 6 weeks before it launches on the Flare network. So we're looking at Flare having Fassets live sometime in maybe late January or potentially February of next year. So lots of things to look forward to. But guys, that is the stream. I would like to thank you all so much for watching. If you're new here, please feel free to subscribe and drop a like on the video. Of course, we do have the weekly news update that is going to be happening in about 8 hours time, later tonight for me. More than welcome to join in and get a recap of not just this space, but all of the other developments that have been happening on the Songbird and Flare network. So, with that being said, I'd like to thank you all once again for watching. Do have yourself an incredible day, and until next time, I'm out.